What if the real danger in your life isn't failure, but comfort? Right now, millions of people wake up every day, follow the same routine, scroll the same apps, talk to the same people, and slowly feel something terrifying. Nothing. No excitement, no deep meaning. Just a quiet feeling that life has become painfully boring. But according to the famous psychologist Carl Jung, boredom is not laziness. It's something much darker. It's a psychological warning that you're ignoring a powerful part of yourself. And the longer you ignore it, the more empty your life becomes. Have you ever looked at your life and quietly asked yourself a disturbing question? Why does everything feel so boring? Not painful, not tragic, just empty. You wake up, you check your phone, you go to work or school, you scroll, you watch something, you sleep, and then you repeat the same thing tomorrow. From the outside, your life might even look fine. Maybe you're not struggling financially. Maybe you have friends, entertainment, and endless content to watch. Yet deep down, something feels wrong. It feels like life has lost its intensity. Most people think boredom comes from a lack of excitement, but according to the famous psychologist Carl Jung, boredom often comes from something much darker. It comes from a life that is too safe. Jung believed that inside every human being lives something called the shadow. Your shadow is the part of you that contains everything you hide, your aggression, your ambition, your dangerous curiosity, your desire to take risks. But society teaches you to suppress these parts of yourself. You're told to be polite, be predictable, be responsible, be normal. And slowly, over time, something strange happens. You become a person who behaves correctly, but feels nothing, because the shadow never disappears. It only waits. When you suppress too much of yourself, your life becomes emotionally flat. There's no danger, no challenge, no deep passion, just routine. And the human brain hates routine. Your brain evolved in environments where survival depended on uncertainty. For thousands of years, humans hunted, explored, fought, and discovered. Every day contained risk. Every day contained meaning. Now, compare that to modern life. Most people sit in front of screens for 8 hours. They follow instructions. They repeat the same tasks. They avoid conflict. They avoid risk. And they wonder why life feels boring. Your brain isn't broken. It's understimulated. But here's where the dark psychology begins. When people cannot access healthy forms of challenge, the shadow starts looking for unhealthy ones. This is why people create drama. They start arguments. They sabotage relationships. They take reckless risks, not because they want destruction, but because they want intensity. A boring life is emotionally suffocating. Pain is sometimes more stimulating than boredom. Think about how many people stay in toxic relationships, not because they are happy, but because the emotional chaos makes them feel alive. Or think about people who constantly chase extreme experiences, dangerous stunts, reckless decisions, self-destructive habits. These behaviors often come from the same root, the shadow demanding expression. Carl Jung once said something chilling. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Most people never realize this. They believe their boredom is caused by external circumstances. They blame their job, their city, their routine. But sometimes the real problem is internal. They've built a life that is too controlled, too predictable, too emotionally safe. And safety, when taken too far, slowly becomes psychological death. The modern world sells comfort as the ultimate goal. Comfortable jobs, comfortable homes, comfortable routines, but comfort has a dark side. Comfort removes friction, and friction is what creates meaning. Imagine playing a video game where every level is easy, every enemy is weak, every mission is predictable. You would stop playing very quickly. Because the human brain needs difficulty. It needs problems to solve. It needs obstacles. Without challenge, life feels like an endless waiting room. This is why some of the most financially successful people still feel empty. They achieved everything society told them to want. But the journey removed all struggle, and struggle is what gives life texture. Jung believed the real goal of life was something he called individuation. Individuation means becoming your true self, not the version society approves of, not the version your parents expected, but the full version of you, including your shadow. This doesn't mean becoming reckless or destructive. It means acknowledging the parts of yourself you've been taught to hide, your ambition, your competitiveness, your desire for power, your hunger for adventure. When these forces are ignored, boredom takes over, because your psyche knows you are capable of more, and it hates living below its potential. The scary truth is that many people unconsciously choose boring lives, because boring lives feel safe. But safety has a psychological cost. You trade excitement for stability. You trade growth for predictability. And slowly, year by year, life becomes smaller. Your world shrinks. Your curiosity fades. Your energy disappears. Until one day you wake up and realize something terrifying. You are not exhausted from doing too much. You are exhausted from doing too little that matters, and that is where the second part of this dark psychological truth begins. Because boredom is not just a feeling, it's a warning, a signal from your mind that something inside you is being ignored, something powerful, something dangerous, something that wants to live. Most people respond to boredom in the worst possible way. They try to escape it. They open social media, they watch endless videos, they distract themselves with entertainment. For a moment it works. The brain receives small hits of dopamine, but the boredom always returns, stronger. Because distraction is not the cure, it's anesthesia. According to the psychological ideas of Carl Jung, boredom is often the mind forcing you to confront something deeper. It's a psychological signal that your life has lost direction. Not necessarily comfort, direction. There's a difference. A comfortable life can still feel meaningful, but a directionless life feels hollow. Many people today follow scripts that were written by someone else. Study, get a job, work for decades, retire, repeat. But the human psyche wasn't designed for scripts. It was designed for exploration, discovery, challenge, transformation. Jung believed every person carries an inner blueprint for who they could become. But that blueprint is often buried under years of social conditioning. You're told what success should look like, what a good career should be, what a stable life should look like. So you build a life that looks correct, but feels wrong. And the mind expresses this conflict through boredom. Boredom is the psychological tension between who you are and who you're pretending to be. This is why some people suddenly make radical changes in their lives. They quit jobs, move to new countries, start creative projects, change careers. From the outside, it looks irrational, but internally it feels necessary. Because the psyche cannot tolerate stagnation forever. If growth stops, something inside begins to decay. This is where the shadow becomes even more dangerous. When a person ignores their deeper desires for too long, those desires don't disappear. They mutate. They become resentment, envy, bitterness. You start secretly hating people who live more freely than you. You criticize them, judge them, call them irresponsible. But deep down, part of you envies their courage because they escaped the cage you're still inside. Carl Jung warned about this psychological trap. He believed that people who suppress their true nature too long eventually project their shadow onto others. They attack in others what they secretly fear in themselves. This is why some of the most judgmental people are also the most frustrated. They see freedom in others, and it reminds them of their own limitations. But there's a darker layer to boredom most people never realize. Sometimes boredom appears right before transformation. It's the mind-clearing space, breaking old patterns, forcing you to question your direction. Think about it. When life is chaotic, you rarely question your path. You're too busy surviving. But when everything becomes stable and predictable, you finally have the mental space to ask dangerous questions. Is this really the life I want? Am I becoming the person I imagined? Or am I just drifting? These questions are uncomfortable, but they are also powerful, because boredom can become a doorway, a signal that your psyche is ready for evolution. Jung believed that the second half of life is often about confronting the parts of yourself you ignored earlier. Your creativity, your dreams, your deeper ambitions, your shadow, and integrating them into a more complete identity. But this process requires courage, because the moment you stop living mechanically, you start facing uncertainty again. And uncertainty is frightening. The safe routine disappears. The predictable future becomes unclear. But ironically, uncertainty is also where life becomes interesting again. The brain wakes up, your attention sharpens, your emotions intensify. You begin to feel something again. Not constant happiness, but aliveness. And aliveness is the opposite of boredom. The goal of life is not endless comfort. It's meaningful engagement with reality, struggle, growth, discovery, challenge. These are the experiences that create psychological depth. Without them, life becomes shallow. Carl Jung believed that becoming your true self is not a comfortable process. It's messy, unpredictable, sometimes painful. But it is also the only path that leads away from existential boredom. So if your life feels boring right now, that feeling might not be a problem. It might be a signal. A quiet voice from the deeper layers of your mind saying something simple but terrifying. You are capable of more than this. And the longer you ignore that voice, the louder the boredom becomes. Until one day, it forces you to change, or it slowly drains the color from your life. The choice, whether most people realize it or not, is always theirs.